All right, question for our audience. What color was Jesus? What color?
In today's modern churches, some don't teach based off of scriptures, because if they did, then the question wouldn't be a mystery on how Christ looked. And for the people who say his color doesn't matter, clearly you just have an opinion based on how you feel. And how you feel and what you perceive isn't always right, but based on the Holy Scriptures, we can get a message from the prophets claiming how Christ looked based on color, not from a racial or hatred or racism ideology. If we look at, we're going to start at Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. His head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes like a flame of fire. His feet were like fine brass, as if refined in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. And precept that, go to Daniel's chapter 7, verse 9, and Daniel 10 and 6. And it states, vision of the ancient days. I watched till the thrones were put in place, and the ancient days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. And then you're going to go to Daniel chapter 10, verse 6. And it states, his body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like torches of fire, his arms and feet like burnished bronze in color, and the sound of his words like the voice of a multitude. But look at that. His arms and feet like a burnished bronze in color. So, if, go to Google, let's see. Type in burnished. Burnished bronze. Let's see, image. And those are the depictions of burnished bronze that it gives you. Let's click on that one. There's the color of burnished bronze. Look at my arm. Ready. Burnished bronze. And there you have it.
Whether or not Jesus is black, just like the first caller. First, I'd like to commend Blair Underwood for the relevance of what this is bringing out to the surface. In these day and ages, people need to get beyond the color factor.
Yes.
Who we pray to does not matter. We were created in his image. If I go to heaven, I might see him as white. If someone else goes to heaven, they might see him as black. Who do we know what we're going to perceive him as?
Well,
Clearly, she doesn't read. It's stated in 2 Timothy 2, 15 through 16. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. But shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase into more ungodliness. So basically, this woman saying that it doesn't matter what color we should, perceive him, or, she might go to heaven and see a black or white. She's unlearned. She's babbling in vain, profane. She doesn't study to show thyself approved. Isaiah 53, 2 through 5. And it states, for he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He has no form nor formlessness. And when we shall see him, there shall be no beauty that we should desire him. He was rejected of the man, and man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid as we hid our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. So if you just go back to verse 2, it says, he has no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. So all these churches that you see, this Caucasian or even this black Christ, that is a handsome man, that's a form of idolatry. There shouldn't be no picture of Christ in these churches. Even with the whitewashed European pictures that you see in the museums, or if you go overseas to Russia or Germany where they got the original paintings were black, those are still idolatry. You know what I'm saying? So there's no beauty that we should desire him.
What is blackness? Blackness is one of three things. It's either a perception, what you see. When you look at me until you see a man of a darker hue. It's either a state of mind, a consciousness. That's why I have friends of mine who are white, and you'll say, and they know more about African American heritage and culture than some black people. And you'll say, well, this white guy, he's black. He's a brother. Thirdly, when we talk about blackness, it's defined by ancestral lineage, your genealogical line. If you go to the genealogical line of Jesus, there are people of color throughout his lineage completely. And the thing is, before anybody can take issue with this film or with this entire issue, and it's not a novel idea, the significance of this film is it's never been on camera. A black Jesus has never been on camera. Right. Certainly not a crucifixion. So it's been there. And it's important to establish that because of all the things you said. We talked about the justice system. But once we get beyond that, then, and only then, it becomes irrelevant.
We're going to look up the color black. Black is the darkest color, the result of an absence or complete absorption of visible light. It is an achromatic color, literally a color without hue, like white and gray. It's often used symbolically or figuratively to represent darkness, while white represents light. Like in the beginning in Genesis, when the Most High said that in the beginning there was darkness, then he created the light. But if you go back to the definition, it says literally a color without hue. So us being human, especially us so-called blacks or African Americans being human, you know, we have hue. We have brown, burnt brass. We're not black. We have a color of a brown, a burnt brass hue color, just as stated in the scriptures. So when you say black people is not a race. It's not a whole collective group. If you're basing that on the scriptures, there's different sects, different nationalities of so-called black people or people of color. So it sounds so dumb of us in America just to call ourselves black. Because I can go to India, I can go to Saudi Arabia, and there's someone that's just as dark as me. So would I call them black? No. It's asinine. It doesn't make any sense. That's how dumbed down we are here in America. Just labeling ourselves black or labeling ourselves white. It's a part of this system that they brainwashed us. Black is not a race. It is strictly a corporation word that ties us down to America and its value systems. Where just like it's political, you see red and blue, Democratic and Republican, or like Bloods and Crips, black and white. It's along the same lines. It's a part of the system. Some people want to call it the matrix, whatever you want to call it, but there's no group of people or race defined by their color. Color or your history is not defined by your color. It's defined by your nationality, not the color of your skin. That's not how you define someone. You define someone by their morality, their language, their moral compass, in a sense, not just based off of their damn color. I'm going to be reading from Matthew, chapter 1, the genealogy of Jesus Christ. The book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. Skip down to verse 16. And Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who was called Christ. So all the generations from Abraham to David are the 14 generations. From David into the captivity in Babylon are 14 generations. And from the captivity in Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. So Jacob's name was changed to Israel. So therefore Christ was an Israelite through the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Didn't change his name to Israel. It's stated in Genesis chapter 32. We'll start at 21, and it states, So went to present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons, and passed over for Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with man, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that thou doest ask after my name? And he blessed him there. So his 11 sons he brought with them, and he changed his name from Jacob to Israel. So therefore, if you go back to Matthew, the genealogy is stated in chapter 1, verse 2. Abraham begot Isaac, Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. So Jacob's name was changed to Israel. So the Israelites, the 12 tribes. And Jacob begot a son, Joseph. So Joseph was an Israelite, the husband of Mary, which was an Israelite woman, of whom was Jesus, who was called Christ. So that was the genealogy. So when people say they don't know what an Israelite is, this is basically telling you, the scriptures is telling you who the Israelites are. Christ wasn't a Christian. He was a Hebrew Israelite through the 12 tribes, and he came from Judah.